Yeah.
So a big welcome to this session with Milan Bijelic. Milan is a process worker. Process-oriented psychology is a specialized field of psychology, psychotherapy, but also world work or work that is of service in the world, working on community issues, unpacking conflict, and also addressing war. And it is really through the work of Aline Ordegon that I came across Milan. So wind back a number of years when I was doing my PhD in transpersonal psychology and theatre, I was looking for interviewees and for people who really understood the vehicle of theatre as a vehicle for inner work and work in the community. And I came across process work. This is really quite a long time ago now, 15 years or so. And I had the chance to sit in conversation with Aline Ordegon, who is very senior in process work here in the United Kingdom. She was a theatre practitioner and also a trained therapist, and we had a wonderful conversation. She had also written about work that was engaging with processes of conflict resolution, and she had this very deep insight into psychotherapeutic processes and creative processes. So building on that, and fast forward now many years, I approached Arlene and said I would really love to integrate the voice of process work into nurturing the fields of change this year because of its deep interdisciplinary understanding in human relationships. And when we look at the crises that we're facing in the world today, it really does feel like it's a relational crisis. How we engage with one another, with ourselves, and with the world at large is very much at the core of what's going on. And Arlene immediately said, there is a wonderful person I would like to introduce you to, Milan, who would be ideally placed in giving a guest session in nurturing the fields of change. And so I reached out to Milan and we had opening conversations, and it was very clear that Milan's own story and journey was really deeply relevant. So it's a huge pleasure to welcome you here, Milan, and to engage in this session with you. Yeah, big welcome to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jessica. And hello, everybody. Um, the we'll have also chance just briefly to introduce ourselves. It's a small group, and we can also benefit very much from that as well. Not that it would be nice to have more people, but also it's also nice to enjoy perhaps a smaller and more intimate group as we're talking about the topic. Yes, Jessica, when you contacted me and Arlene was in touch as well, Arlene was the person that was a facilitator in a project that was called Building of a Sustainable Community in the Aftermath of the War in Croatia. And back then, I was working in a relief humanitarian organization and uh, got that information about the seminar called seminar at the time, and it was a type of forum in which we weren't taught about strategies in working in a post-war situation, but rather, like you described, it was about exploring our relationships. So the professionals and volunteers and representatives of local government and national government were part of the forum, and we were working on our relationship and our own understanding and our own experience about the conflict. It was funded by the UN Agency for Refugees, and it was a period over 4 years. And it was a possibility, opportunity for conflict transformation. And we were going very deep. I'll share some of the things during my presentation. What was problem was that we never got like a formal government process introduced of truth and reconciliation, and that's in the whole area in the Balkans. I'd say that's something that perhaps there's still opportunity and a need for that. Although people are finding their own ways in, in their social circles and how culturally and economically we interconnect now across the new borders. And I think culture is a great aid in that process. But something that would be also like a formal truth and reconciliation process would definitely be important. But still, we had there were some other local initiatives in Serbia, in Bosnia, in Croatia, in Kosovo that were through the charity work and non-governmental organizations supported the reconciliation process. So that is the background where I'm coming from. I then also decided to study process work because I became very much interested. And back then I was living in Croatia. And towards the end of my training, then I permanently moved to the UK, where I live in Sheffield in England, northeast England, and where I currently work and live. And I'm part of the process work school in the UK as well. At the moment, I'm in Croatia. I'm in the family house. That wasn't planned. It was the occupied territory. I needed to be here because of some work and the repair and the maintenance on the house that required my presence here, but it wasn't planned. And interestingly, just with some builders, that you kind of talk what was before the war and after the war. That becomes like a certain parameter also in conversation that is then introduced. But anyway, I'll say more also later, but it would be very nice to hear from everybody. Where are you? Okay, here are your names, but also just hearing how you pronounce your names, and also where are you? Where are you located? Where are you connecting from?
Should we go around, pass the talking stick around? People can briefly say
Okay.
hello. Is that a good idea, Milan? Yeah.
Yeah. Ina, is that?
Ina, yeah, it's correct pronunciation. I'm in Tel Aviv at the moment.
Sorry, what was that, Ina?
Oh, you don't hear me. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Now hear me. I am in Tel Aviv at the moment. Yeah. And so I don't know what to say more. That's it.
Thanks. And who do you want to pass on the microphone to, Ina?
Dan.
Thank you. Yeah. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm one of the co-facilitators on other parts of this Nurturing the Fields of Change program, and I'm a coach, and I'm based in Finland at the moment. I'm a Brit, but I'm married to a Finn, live in rural Finland. It's good to be here. I'll pass on to Anya.
Hi, I'm Anya indeed, and I live in Edinburgh, Scotland, and it's very sunny and warm right now, so I'm enjoying that. Nice to be here. Oh, Nargis.
Hi, I'm Nargis. I am in Dubai, in the Middle East. I've been here 50 years this year. I work with transpersonal psychology in my work, and it's great to be here. Thank you, Milan.
And who's next, Nargis?
Wendy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wendy, and I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. My interests are in global education, education leadership, and film literacy. And that is actually also what brought me to this particular session. Last night, I watched a film, Jonathan Glazer, The Zone of Interest. And it struck me once again about the the dark side of human nature. And whoever watched those films will know exactly what I'm speaking about. Thank you so much, Milan, for being here with us today. And I'm passing on to Ursula.
Hi, I'm Ursula. I live on the island of Lanzarote, but I'm German. I'm a therapist, or I used to be a therapist, and nowadays more interested in social sculpture work. So I pass on to Francesca.
Hello, lovely to be with you all. I'm in Northampton today, so I usually live in Barcelona, and very interested in deepening into inner change, for outer development, all this inner work, social change, and the more invisible dimensions, which I know we're going to explore today. And I'll pass on to Manjusha.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm here in Bangalore, India, and I'm a filmmaker and also a teaching artist, working to bring transpersonal values into education, formal, informal spaces. Happy to be here, but I must mention that it's sort of dinner time for me. So I don't know if I'll be able to keep the camera on all the time, but I do want to listen in and participate as much as I can.
Thanks, Manjusha. Yeah, we've all had a chance to say something. Yeah. Wow. It is amazing. Almost across the globe we're covering here. I was just initially, when I chatted with Jessica, I thought it would be mainly participants from the UK, and it's really nice to feel and hear people here joining from different parts of the world and being interested in transpersonal aspect of development and our understanding of the dynamics of what's happening. As the next thing I thought would be good to hear a little bit. What are the things that currently concern you at the collective level? Or potentially also, is there anything that creates maybe hope or a ray of hope or sparks some motivation also in this period? Just kind of just to hear and feel for me a little bit, and us all, as we explore the world of ours that is a bit troubled. As I said, these days I'm chatting with builders, and one guy told me, look, I just listening to the news. I don't know what's going to come. There's so many different things from around the world, and from Los Angeles, from United States, from Middle East, from Israel, from Ukraine, still going on, and also from occasionally here, not that often, I don't know how much is covered in the other parts of the world, from north of India, from Kashmir. Also, there are things coming. So where are you? Where are you? How are you at the very personal level? What are your hopes? What are your low dreams? Yeah, Dan?
Yeah, I could go. I guess I'm just kind of astounded that the conversation is just about the inevitability of war. I just can't comprehend that there doesn't seem to be a counter conversation in the kind of public discourse around why are we all deciding to go to war right now. It feels like there are like no grown-ups anywhere at the moment. And I'm very lucky that I'm not in a war zone, and I've never lived in a war zone. But my son's just turned 18, and in Finland you have to do national service, and now we've joined NATO, and there are Russians, you know, just looked at satellite photos of Russian bases being built on the Finnish border, and you know, you go for, you know, most of us have lucked out in that we lived in the, obviously you haven't, Milan, and other people have been involved in conflicts, but you know, we've lived through the biggest period of peace that's been known, really, and suddenly to have that, the kind of confidence that came with that, or the kind of assumption of peace first, and now it's the assumption of war first. I just don't, I can't fathom that at all. Someone came, a major from the Finnish army came to school to, you know, it was kind of a recruitment thing, and to talk about the geopolitical situation around the world, and my son said, oh, it was really interesting. And I'm sure it was really interesting, and he said, like, no one was on their phones, no one was, you know, like everyone was glued to everything he said. And I just thought, well, is there no one coming to talk about peace building rather than just the kind of necessity of war? Well, it's just that I can't fathom it really at the moment. So that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, that resonates. That assumption, yeah, that inevitability. Is it really? Yeah, is that what we want? Other voices, other thoughts?
I can share a little bit. It's been really tough these last few years. We have in Aleph Trust a staff member who is based in Ukraine, and through his eyes, I've witnessed a little bit what it's like. He lived in Kyiv when the war first started, and the current iteration anyway. And then very quickly he moved into the countryside, and just to witness his process, his journey has been really moving, to see how he's navigating the situation with such resilience in his heart and peace. He's one of the most peaceful people I know, and most loving. And to witness him navigate with his family, how to look after his family and how to keep safe, and you know, this sort of thin mantle of civilization being removed, and no electricity all of a sudden, so he's powering his laptop through the generator that ran through the car engine so that he can work with us. It's unbelievable. And he's our IT manager. And this is just one example. We also have family in Israel, and witnessing what's going on in Israel and in Gaza has been immensely painful. So for me, it's been a matter of navigating professionally and holding everything I'm holding and co-holding, and at the same time managing ongoing distress, in all honesty. And I'm really grateful for the colleagues that I have around me and the holding that they have given me over the years. It's been really powerful. Yeah. So that's just a little bit from me, and I'm being very honest here, but I feel like if we can't be honest with each other in these ways here, where can we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, how we're managing the situation if we are in a war zone or around it, and then how we manage finding the ways, connecting with parts of the world that is outside the war zone, and also kind of it's important for the work, but it's also important in terms of understanding there is that reality still there, which isn't immediate war zone, and it's there, and you can be oh, I need that, but at the same time, although the reality is not here, that reality still exists there. It's still important.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
And also we do need colleagues, right? Isn't it? Knowing, having like a social circle and people who can listen and understand. Yeah. Other thoughts, other feelings?
Yeah, I can. Sorry.
Manjusha or Ursula, who's going to be next?
Yeah, I could go. I mean, I don't know where to start really. It's not just about the war. I mean, we were on the brink of one. I'm speaking from India, just reminding everyone. But there've been also disasters that's been happening, one after the other, that have been quite distressful. The recent one last week of the Air India flight, the Boeing that crashed, the 787. And then there's been all sorts of other things going on. There's also been another helicopter crash in the Himachal area of Rishikesh, the bridge that collapsed. Another 5, 6 Air India planes have taken off, come back. Just listening about it creates so much of horror. Thinking of those passengers, there's so much on the social media. The whole crew had made videos looking so happy, anticipating a weekend probably in London and all sorts of things. It's very confusing, very horrifying, very shocking. The war actually, I mean, it wasn't a war, but what happened, if you know, I mean, India is very huge in comparison to a lot of other places. So it was in the north when we woke up to it. And then I think we were just trying to consider, because I'm here in the south, in a place that's landlocked, so I'm not vulnerable. But I happen to travel to the south. If you're familiar with India, the Kerala, Trivandrum, and that comes on the west coast. And I'm just sharing this with you all. I don't know how sensitive this information is to put it out there, but I was just talking to the cab driver and I said, oh, anyway, you're right. I was going to the airport to come back to Bangalore and I said, anyway, but you're right here at the bottom of the country. So even if there is a problem with Pakistan, you're not getting affected with that. And just as I said that, we passed this facility which said BrahMos. That's where the missiles are made. You know, the think tank is happening there. The missiles that were fired into Pakistan. And I said, oh, so basically they can come, because he said, no, we are not safe either. We are not safe either. We are right here on the, they can come right across the sea. And so it's like, I just saw that and I said, oh yeah, nobody's really safe when things go wrong. So it's not just been that, it's also been that disaster which has actually stayed, because that was so real. Those passengers, and strangely, I mean, I don't know how much this makes sense to you, but they kept on showing this book of Bhagavad Gita. If you're familiar with Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
That was completely intact in that whole thing. It was not burnt. It was something that nobody could understand. How did that book, that holy book, everybody was charred. They're finding it very hard to identify. The DNA thing is going on every day. They identify more and more bodies and then they're taken away for the last rites. But that book has just stayed intact. It's something very strange. It's very So yeah, it's very confusing this time.
Yeah. In your, Andrusha, you're saying there's these catastrophic events that happen and there's loss, people lose their lives. And
Yeah, 240 people, and then it landed on a medical hostel. The students, doctors, they were having lunch. So it killed another 40, 50 people. And then there is all sorts of posts on the social media that the Boeing knew, the US knew, the Boeing company knew exactly that these planes were not good 3 years back. It had been raised. And so it is like, why are we playing with people's lives? Each one of those people, like we go on a journey, we pack so many things, we take gifts for our, the amount of hope and anticipation of the journey ahead. And I mean, even just talking about it, it brings it back all. So yeah, I don't know, the collective consciousness. It's very confusing. There's a lot of distress.
Thanks
Sad.
for talking about it. Also, when we talk about wars, conflict zones, and events like this, we hear the numbers. We hear the numbers, we hear different information. But there's people, like you say, real people. The crew, you said they were looking forward, perhaps having weekend in London or something. And there are life stories, each person, if their life stories, their history, their family, and their future, something what they were hoping for. And there's that loss. Yesterday, when I asked my mother, I said, if you'd have a chance to tell to this group about the war, what would you say? And she immediately said, in her grave voice, she said, it's the innocent people dying. The innocent people dying.
Yeah.
And I say, yeah. And she said, and when it starts, so the war here in Croatia lasted for 4 years. And he said, then you feel like, oh, it's going to end hopefully soon. But instead of ending, it gets bigger. And she said, that's terrible. That's really, really terrible. I was a student at that time, just about to finish my uni. And I come from what we call mixed marriage, ethnically mixed. So my father was Serb and my mother is Croat. My father died of heart later on. And what we call mixed marriage. And there was that thing about where do I belong? Born in Croatia and Croatian culture. I love this culture. I love this place. I've got friends, social network here. And when the polarization comes, it tells you need to now choose. And that was very difficult for me, really, really difficult. So I was a refugee in Germany for some time. And then I returned back before the end of the war. I was like, I didn't plan to be there that long, and I came back. And later after the war, I thought my time would be after the fight. So I got involved in the post-war rebuilding and community development. But yeah, it's like you are forced to choose. The polarization comes and then you're forced to choose. I'd like to start the presentation because it kind of links with what I'm talking. And feel free also to say something or ask during the presentation. And then after the presentation, we'll have small groups, maybe two breakout rooms, and just to reflect on that. So I'm okay to start with my presentation. Oh, Ursula, Ursula, you wanted to say something?
No, do go ahead, please.
No, go. Yeah, maybe. No. I'd like to give you opportunity to say.
All I wanted to say, where I live, there isn't a war, but what I experience is a kind of aggressiveness that is sort of like generalized. And just to give a simple example, 2 guys started a composting project, which is something that's not very known here. So they put a bin in a public place, and the first night the bin disappeared. All the following nights, the bin has been destroyed. And this is just one tiny example. So what, I'm totally helpless. I don't know, I would have loved to support them, but how do you go about dealing with that. So the only thing I was able to do is to include them in my daily meditation and send them some, I don't even know who they are. So send them some, I don't know, good vibes or whatever. So it's this aggressiveness on a personal level that I think in the long run will lead to a war.
Mm. I agree. I agree. In my work, nowadays I also work on relationships, professional relationships and intimate relationships. And in a situation of these intractable conflicts, what happens at the kitchen desk in a terrible argument is pretty much similar what happens between the countries in its pattern, how it develops. Yes, yeah, I agree, Ursula. Yeah. And it becomes a large scale. Yeah. Okay, I'll start now with my presentation, and as I say, and then we'll have a chance to kind of to reflect together. I hope this will be useful. Am I okay, Jessica, Fran? Yeah, I'll start sharing.
For sure. Give it a try and we'll let you know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, is this visible to all now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll launch it. So, oh, it's not happening. Oh yeah, okay.
Yes, we're seeing it in the slideshow mode. Thank you.
I mentioned some of this, but you know, the idea. First of all, let me tell you about War Café, where it comes. The origin is actually from inspiration from Arlene's book War Hotel. In the book, Arlene talks about her work in Croatia and in other parts of the Balkans, in Kosovo as well. She also explores about other conflicts and also genocide, Holocaust, and at large she talks about tactics, tactics of war and tactics that are used in sometimes with intention. And also sometimes what happens around those dynamics, for example, dehumanization and demonization of the other side, it also, we need to say, also happens spontaneously and also happens through media. Whether this is intentional or not, we can discuss and debate. That's not my intention. But also happens spontaneously because we are othering our enemy. And it feels important that they are the other and they are wrong. And so she talks a lot about that psychological dynamic around the war, and I found it very useful. Also that although we do have probably warlords and those who with intention play that and interact in a way that stimulates escalation, but also what I've perceived also here and from a lot of my experience, people come with the intention of justice and love, justice and fairness. And people are willing to sacrifice on the basis of this psychological feeling. People are able to endanger other people because what other is doing, it's unfair, and people are willing then to sacrifice. So very often, that's actually in the background what we may call, the dark side. The dark side is very often fueled by this sense of justice, and it's justified what I'm doing, what we are doing, and I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to sacrifice other people, and I'm willing to sacrifice myself as well. And that's also is my personal interest in conflicts. I never before the war that I was interested in conflicts, and I never imagined that this would be my profession. It's kind of, this is a shift in my career from that period, and trying to, from the way I feel, what I can help in this country and in this region or anywhere in the world. It stems from that period. Process work. We'll present here some of the process work concepts, working with groups and large groups and organizations that are also that may be here interesting. So some of that focus, because we could talk about many different things in process work, like about any other paradigm, but would like to focus today on the field and roles, that transpersonal element. Also the concept of inner work and world work, so working on myself and working then in the community and in the world. And also a little bit some emphasis on tactics of war, that dehumanization element and other dynamics, again, whether they're used spontaneously or with the intention. And to know that they happen before, during, and after a violent conflict or war. Yeah, before, during, and after, very much. And one of the aspects is, I don't know if you were following some of the International War Tribunal, how you're looking at then the war crimes and the people that were accused of the war crimes in the Balkans, then in some groups they were considered still as heroes. And then here we were looking into their responsibility and accountability. And in that regard, that othering is still very much present. So if we don't have processes of restorative justice, then the criminal, the war tribunal isn't in itself. We are thinking of the future and stopping the cycles of violence. Then that's not enough. That's not enough. The war tribunal is not enough. Okay, so here we are, the first element, the field and the roles. It borrows from systems thinking, a systemic perspective, and also adds something from its own paradigm, its process work. So when we are looking at the systemic perspective in the field, right now, here in this group, if we would talk about something else, if we would talk about environment, there was an example of the bins there in and environment. The issues that exist out there in the world or in that part of the world around environment will constellate also now, right now in here in this group. The roles, the dynamics that occur out there will be also immediately here as we talk about in our group here. So we're talking about that element of the field in relation to particular issues. In that regard, they are beyond time and place and person. And they occur as dynamics, usually around power, privilege, something's marginalized, history of the relationship between social groups or ethnicities, what's the political history, collective individual trauma. So there's that field level as it occurs out there is also going to be present here related to anything. If you talk now about to talk about the conflict in Israel, the state of Israel and Gaza, the rules that exist around there, one way or the other, constellate here in our group. And it is like that. I had a video, but I won't show it now. When we have that little experiment in physics, magnet, and there's a plate about magnet, and if we put iron particles there on top, the particles will take their position according to the magnetic field. Same happens around our positionality and around that field in relation to particular aspect. So if you're going to now talk about the conflict here, about past conflict between Serbia and Croatia, Bosnia conflict in Bosnia or in Kosovo, that dynamic will be still present now, even though we are living in peace now. So those dynamics, particularly unresolved dynamics, are here in the right now. Also, we can see strongly around race, race and racism conversation, whiteness and race, very much that dynamic is present in any group that we are now facilitating. So that field element is there, and the roles that appear in that are relation to the roles that exist out there. So if I as a white person and I have a conversation with my colleague, person of color, something about that whiteness and racism. And there's some issue here. We are here impacted by our own interaction and what happened in our relationship. And at the same time, that field will impact also our relationship, because that issue is not resolved, it's quite burdened, and will have impact on our interaction. So there's that roles interaction in the field. And the other aspect of the field and process work, we understand also sentient, call it different way, one consciousness, unus mundus, quantum field. We also understand that all polarities arise from that level as well. It's like a quantum field that has infinite number of possibilities for anything. And then also it contains also qualities beyond polarities also. And that, for example, I'll give you an example. In one of the group processes in Croatia in the post-war period, we had quite difficult interactions around what happened. This person was pushed out of their community, or someone saved their lives by escaping, and sharing those stories. And being able, giving space to each individual for the group to listen and witness. And that was challenging. And sometimes when it was also allowed and the group witnessed and heard, there was almost like a sudden element of that silence in the group, which had an impact, almost physical, embodied impact on all of us. As if something has entered the group, like another quality, a quality of deep listening and concern for the person. So that's also that beyond polarities at that moment. Quality of the field. And that's what we call the eldership and facilitator. The facilitator needs to be able to hold space for all the polarities. That would be the wish for the facilitator. So facilitator is also part of the field and is affected by it. So in the process work, we don't consider facilitator to be neutral. They are also part of the field, and they should be able to facilitate themselves. So whether this is preparation or whether it's during their work, they should notice, what are they disturbed about? What's their fuel? What kind of they feel they've got inside themselves in relation to the process they are facilitating. So our exercise will be a little bit going in that direction, so I won't talk much more now. But it's the facilitator facilitates themselves, and that's the inner work. Also, now we're moving to the world work. That's facilitating groups. I mentioned this, dynamics of polarization and conflict in the outer world will manifest also here in the group. Because they are unresolved there, and therefore as soon as you start talking about them, they will have impact here. Sometimes people that are not directly affected by those dynamics, but are participating, they will find themselves in the role as well. So when we are facilitating, we're looking into the relationship between the roles, who is oppressor, who is attacker, who is victim, and interestingly, both sides will find those in themselves as well. We're looking into finding and being attuned to diversity of experiences and perceptions of reality and feelings. Very subjective. And the diversity of feeling also within the same identified groups as well. Impact of the ghosts of past events and trauma. We can go back in our case here in the Balkans, in former Yugoslavia. It was also what happened 10 years ago. What happened during the Second World War around ethnic conflict here, and how it was used during the Second World War by the Nazi regime also. So it goes back then. It goes back also to the Ottoman Empire, and because that relates to people who converted to Islam and were not anymore part of this community here, so they converted to the religion of the colonizer during the Ottoman Empire. So it was justified. So for a Serb soldier in Sarajevo, in Bosnia, he was convinced that it was justified to shoot down on Muslims down in Sarajevo, because they occupied and they colonized us for more than 3-4 centuries. So you see, there are the stories that are used, and that also how ghosts of the past are present. Dynamics of hot spots and cool spots. We explore these roles in the here and now in the groups. And when something happens in the interaction between two individuals that is hot and heated, we pay attention to it, and we will turn to that, and we would like to deepen that conversation. Otherwise, the idea is if we don't process the hotspots that occur in the here and now, they will later on escalate. And it's important to notice cool spots, even micro cool spots, because if we don't notice them and pay attention to them, then it's just, again, easy to just go into the cycles of another hotspot. So going through that. Now, we're moving to the tactics of war, dynamics of dehumanization. As I said, this happens spontaneously, or they can be used tactics. Our enemy, we dehumanize, we demonize the way we picture them, portray them, the words we use and associate with them, we all know here. Chaos and crackdown. When there's a chaos, there's a need for control. So there's that element. Of course, there's a need for control when there's a chaos, but sometimes the crackdown can be introduced on the basis of chaos. And some people say, well, was that really important to introduce a crackdown in a situation? Misinformation, playing on emotions, polarization, feeding into biases, distortion on information. In my English, I needed to look up this disinformation. It seems that the disinformation is a more organized or strategized way of misinformation, where there's that strategy where actually you want to influence and create a certain situation. Destroying the soul of communities, targeting leaders of the other side, including journalists that portray truth and investigating. Sexual violence, mass rape. In Bosnia, we had a situation in June, there's annual commemoration of mass rape. And it may seem like, oh, this is what happens. But to know that also it's a tactic of war, how actually you can also, how you're targeting the soul and the spirit of those who are more vulnerable. So I found this quote from a former UN officer, Patrick Kamer. It is perhaps more dangerous to be a woman than a soldier in an armed conflict, isn't it? That in situations such as that. And then conflict transformation, work on individual and collective trauma. We need to, in our work on conflict transformation, this needs to be part of. And what I've learned and what I'd like to promote is that the work on that trauma doesn't need to be confined within the walls of individual psychotherapy. In those large group discussions and open conversations, facilitated conversations, where we can talk openly and in a way that we can be given space and give space to the other, they are deeply transformative. So at that large group level, there's also their element in a different way, working on our collective trauma, because there's that healing element that happens just listening to someone else's story, and just being able to not other now the other person, but getting back that humanity for ourselves and for the other side as well. Going back to our humanity is a big thing. I mentioned this, rebuilding social infrastructure, restorative justice is crucial. We cannot rely on the war tribunal. It's not enough. We need to restore relationship. And Arlene calls that in her book social infrastructure. So very soon after the war, there's that need for building physical infrastructure. And that physical infrastructure kind of takes us back. We can function, but we desperately need social infrastructure. So we can rely on each other, and that humanity, we can claim back that humanity across what there were previously borders. Reconciliation, forgiveness. Also, in those forums in Croatia, I've seen moments of deep conversation. As I joined Arlene and Jean-Claude and Odergon in Rwanda, I was able to see also their process and support that process of truth and reconciliation, working on the post-trauma. That's a possibility and it's a challenge, and it's really part of going back to our humanity. So here I have a little short excerpt from the film The Look of Silence. It's about Indonesia, and Joshua Oppenheimer directed this documentary about 1 million people around 1965 or so were killed in the regime Indonesia in the period of 2 years. And because there was this thing about them being accused as communists, and the regime was targeting and mobilizing people to do it. So if people want to look at it, it's completely available on the YouTube. Here I will just show a small excerpt where one protagonist of the film talks to perpetrator family, and here's this interaction of her father. Father was perpetrator and killed one of his family members. And here's the interaction. Oops. I think I'll need to stop share and then just choose again. Just give me a sec. Okay. I think I will also need to enable share sound. I think I'll just need to check with you that you can hear the sound as it plays. Jessica, you give me a signal.
It is not a question of if
Yes,
we
we
will
hear it.
adopt a 4-hour work week. It is a question of when.
Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity. That is Indonesia's national motto. But what happens when respect for that diversity collapses?
I don't know why is that here?
Almost identical. One by one, prisoners were stood up on the edge of a hole and shot in the back of the head. In Sumatra, a plantation owner told the Swedish ambassador
were loaded onto trucks and driven to a nearby bridge.
Seemed like there was a different video, probably, yeah?
It was like a different video, yeah.
I think you pressed the forward play button rather than the play.
Oh, rather than
you skipped to the next video by accident.
That's right. You're right. Yeah.
Well
Thanks.
spotted, Dan.
Okay, here I am. Apologies for that.
Sebelumnya nggak pernah dengar, baru inilah tadi dia.
So she says, I never knew this before. It was pretty gruesome what her father shared as a perpetrator. So she's now speaking.
Minum itu dia badannya kuat aja. Sebelumnya nggak pernah dengar, baru inilah tadi dia.
Kalau aku, abangku itu orang yang dipotong juga. Waktu itu.
Tiga.
Kalau abangnya abang dipotong ya maaf lah kan nggak tahu bang. Emang taunya baru sekarang ya kan. Dulu kan saya nggak tahu si kecil anak-anaknya kan kami nggak tahu. Rasanya ya.
Karena bapak yang membunuh itu kakak nggak bisa disalahin. Karena kakak juga nggak bisa, bapak ini memang bapak kakak.
Ketiga.
Iya. Saya kayak pernah kenal. Jadi mana? Nggak kerja.
Aku pun kayak kenal sama kakak.
Kenal ada saudara kita. Kurang jawab kan?
Udah, saya mengaji dulu.
Hah? Tak maaf lah ya kalau atas kesalahan bapakku ya bang. Ya, jadi saudara. Dia pun udah tua, anggap orang tua sendiri. Sering-sering lah main kemari. Udah nggak punya mama. Inilah ngurusin dia, pikun. Orang masuk aja kadang dia nggak tahu. Udah tua kali, pikun kali. Iya. Ngurusin dia lah ini sampai saya berhenti kerja apa. Udah nggak ingat apa-apa, nanti orang masuk pun nggak tahu dan entah siapa. Ya saya lah yang ngawasin, tak ngambil apa, udah nggak tahu dia. Saudara aja pun dia udah nggak tahu dia. Inilah dia. Ngurusin dia lah.
Ya, Kak. Kayak lagi permisi Kak ya. Pak, permisi lagi Pak.
Yeah. So that was the so this is what is also hasn't happened there is a more collective truth and reconciliation process through this. It was a work of the director and the team with some families here. Yeah, it's pretty gruesome. What he mentioned here, he said he drank it. What he mentioned was he drank the blood of the victim in order not to become crazy, because people were getting, because of the mass murder, of course, that would impact their psychological state, and people will get crazy because of doing it. And there was that belief that if you drink some of the blood, you will stay sane. And so here we are talking about the dark side, and what they were thinking in other parts of the film. You will see that they're saying, "Oh, the communists, they are faithless. They don't believe in God." And they sleep with each other. They have intimate relationship with each other's husbands and wives. And you create, these are the stories that are being built, and you create the atmosphere where actually you're doing something good, which is kind of insane. But that's the idea. You're doing something, you're serving something good, although it's unbelievable. So I'd like to end here the presentation, and it is here is there full, a little bit over time. I'm thinking here, Jessica, it would be a good time for the short break. And then because it's such a small group, actually here, I'm thinking it would be good to reflect together here rather than going to breakout rooms. Yeah, I think it would be valuable perhaps. Jessica and Fran, how long is the break?
We can take 5 minutes just to stretch our legs, refill our cups, and then come back. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, feel free to turn your cameras off whilst you're doing that, and then we'll see you in 5. Thank you, Milan.
Thanks, great. Yeah. there is a time. Yes, yes, there is a time gap. And in that regard, if it's something like just happen, then there's a preparatory activities that need to take place. Coming back to the anger, and as you're saying that situation can envelop the group. Yeah, I've been in situations when people in a group express their anger, and then that creates the whole situation in the whole group. And underneath the anger, there's usually some pain, or there's something there in the history. So the work encompasses being able to read the signals of the person at the very individual level, and also being able to facilitate the group. And in this forum type of work, we do allow, to some extent, clear feeling to be expressed. And the group needs to be aware that might happen. And that's the reality of the situation. We have a certain edges how we are doing this, or we have a certain we have as facilitators, we have our own relationship to strong feelings. And I'm not saying that we have to always go to the strong feelings in order to work to deepen. But how we go to the deep feelings of loss, and loss of our dear ones, if you're about to do something at the collective level. So I sometimes felt that it was powerful feelings in the room, like you say, envelope. But when we are together, and facilitation can be done in a way that we stay together and witness that, and we are still interested in what's underneath that. And the impact of that, if you just leave it as the anger is anger, if you just leave it there, then it remains unresolved. On the other hand, my question to you and everyone here is, if we don't allow strong feelings to be expressed, can we deal with the real issues? This is like really my research question here. I know that some situations in our forums in Croatia, you know how we call them? It was in the room a little bit like the war without killing.
What did you say? I didn't catch. I'm so sorry. Can we deal with what?
Can we deal with those real situations in real life of loss and atrocities without actually addressing those strong feelings and intense feelings? This is my research question, and I don't know if it works always, but in my sense, from what I said in my experience in post-war work in Croatia, it was that we went through strong feelings and needed to deal with them. And we found our own leadership through that. Each participant, I'm not talking now facilitators. Some people left. We had a couple of people leaving the group after first or second day. Yeah. So that's a sort of, in a facilitative way, allow the strong feeling to be there. And not to leave, not to dissociate from that aspect, because we dissociate from the strong feelings. Yeah, so that's if people have, I was thinking to do a little exercise, and at least in diets, at least one side can do the exercise. I'm wondering, would that be a good thing to do? And unless there's any other burning question.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I don't really have a question. But you were kind of asking, actually, maybe I shouldn't start talking because we only have 5 minutes. So maybe we should just go into the exercise instead. Never mind.
Okay, well, let's see where the question will go. Let's see, maybe something will come out later. So here. You're six without Fran and Jessica, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, we have until 5 p.m. UK time, so 35 minutes more. And I will copy the exercise into the chat, so you can have the exercise steps. And you'd be in dyads, and one person would be doing the exercise, and another person would be supporting and facilitating the other person. You just be following the steps. Oh no, it's not 4:30. Yeah, it's until 5 o'clock. Is time okay for everybody? Nobody needs to leave right now. Okay, yeah.
I might have missed that, but how long do we want for the breakout rooms?
So in the breakout rooms, so it would be 10 minutes. So
10
one
minutes
person
total.
would lead the other, will lead the other person. I'll go very briefly with you. I'll share the exercise, and then I will I'll just share the exercise on the screen. Stepping into the role of the other. This is very much for facilitators' work, and this would be part of that inner work. So here are the steps. So that would be easy for a facilitator. Just follow the steps and support your partner in the exercise to do these steps. So talk with your partner about an issue at the collective or global level. Notice which aspects, dynamics of people disturb you, and choose one you will work on. Let's call it the X part. So it could be some aspect or dynamic. It can be a person that disturb you the most. So choose one. Once you've chosen that, so it could be a person. So for example, when I watched the news in Los Angeles demonstrations, what was disturbing for me, the power, I don't know if you can see me, the power of the police forces. They were there, big and coming in so many, and it was quite big. For me, that was quite disturbing. Like, it was that might, like, no, we will hold you back. And that was disturbing to me. And notice how that disturbing. So for me, that is like removing my voice to say here something, to clearly explain what am I, why am I here demonstrating? I should have this freedom, right? I should be threatened by your force. So express the X part in posture or movement. That's what I already did. I did almost like a huge wall here representing. And now as you go into the movement, try to let go of the context. Oh, that was the demonstrations in Los Angeles. Now just switch to the movement of that big, huge wall energy, and you're just working with the movement. And try to amplify, try to stand, be more that wall, that power that's there oppressing. But it's important that you're exploring that without reference. Actually you're working against this power. You're embodying that power. And so just now, I just tried to get in touch with something. Okay, so what I got from here is like when I embody this power, I'm going to say my view no matter what. And I'm going to find other ways. If not here, I'm going to find other ways where I can say here what's important to me. I don't want to be stopped. And if you want to stop me here now, that's okay. But I'll find my other ways, channels, definitely. So that's the outcome, is like you would try to embody that, what is disturbing you. And you can do it in a different way, but the idea is here, because we are sitting a lot in front of the screen, that we do it in the movement. Okay, so I'll stop sharing. So that's in brief the exercise, and I'll now share this in the chat. I'll copy the exercise steps in the chat, and then Fran, if you can start planning and put people in the okay. Let me just copy this steps.
The rooms are open, and I can join room 3 to make another dyad there.
Go for it, Fran, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I copied in the chat. and we'll let you know when the time's maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes before the end, before the closure. Yeah.
Super. Yeah. Nargis, do you want to join Manjusha in room 1? Not sure if Nargis is actually. Yeah, she's there. She's there. She's in the room. Good. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. I wonder, Jessica, I hope that the chat is visible in the breakout rooms.
Yes, it is. It should be, but what I can also do actually is I could just copy it and broadcast it to the room.
Broadcast it, yeah. Okay.
I'll just take care of that. Copy, broadcast message. Let me just see that. Okay, hasn't fully copied across. Just give me a moment.
Okay.
Copy. It only copies a certain amount of text. It won't allow me to copy. What I could just do is I could very quickly edit it down to try and get it into the broadcast. Yeah, no problem.
Shall I try? I could just let's see. Let me see. I'll also try and do something about it. Okay, just the steps.
Yeah, it's very limited in terms of the words, just like 30 words or something like that. That's what I noticed.
Okay, talk to the one issue, the collector. Okay, oof. Right. I wonder if there's any other way we could.
I know. Hopefully it is showing in the
chat.
Breakout. Yeah, I think normally when you put something into the chat, it does show in the breakout room still. You do see the chat.
I guess that's okay. Otherwise, Fran would hopefully come back. Fran would come back and tell us, oh, we don't have.
Oh, that's, you know what? I could just quickly do that. I could join a breakout room just to see. Let me just have a look. If I join one and then I'll come straight back just to see whether it's showing up.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, right. I'll do that. That's the easiest. 1 second. It's very quick.
Oh, here we are. Okay, well, welcome back. And Jessica and I were chatting, and also among other things, also about the strong feelings. The question about strong feelings in the group. I think that's a very relevant question. I'd like to also come back to it, but be good maybe to hear any outcome of the exercise, or any question, or were you able to go embody the other in any way? Anything interesting? Any difficulty also? Difficulty welcome? No, kind of like didn't get there, anything at all. Ina?
Yeah, I have my mic open. I had very strong experience. I'm very grateful to my partner in this experiment, Anya. Yeah, so I told his story about being Russian and Ukrainian at the same time, because I grew up in Ukraine and working with a team of Ukrainian artists in Poland to help refugee children and work with them. And at some point it was conflict between us, because you see, after a year, suddenly they realized that it's impossible that for me to talk Russian with children, because their parents can be offended that somebody is talking Russian to them. and they suggested me to talk English, and translator will translate me. And for me, it was kind of a shock, because, and I felt like I'm suffocating, like somebody squashed my throat, and I cannot breathe. And Anya suggested me, and I went to this feeling of this power which suffocated me, and I started crying because I felt this. I knew about this pain. That's why it was understandable reaction of my partners, of my team. So I understand them in mind, but when I deep to this feeling and I started crying, I just had the very strong feeling of compassion to their to this power which want to suffocate Russian language because it's so painful to them. And this is really healing.
Well, I'm very grateful, Ina, for sharing, and yeah, thanks to Anya for the support. Yeah, this is this actually, you know, illustrates really well the work of the facilitator, you know, in this case, is going into the disturbance right there. Anya, would you like to share something, like you're supported to go there to stay with this disturbance, the really disturbing quality? How was for you?
I mean, I felt the emotion very strongly, and I felt this, you know, this deep empathy and understanding that Ina had for the others. And I think I just invited her to stay with her own experience in that, her own shock. And yeah, I don't know what, yeah, it just, yeah, I felt it, you know, it was very, very, very present. And I felt a bit, it was short, so we got cut off in the middle of Ina's experience. That was a little bit tough. So that would be my feedback, is to find a way that doesn't happen when you ask people to tap into something that is quite painful. You don't want to be cut off. So I can see Ina's okay, but yeah, I would have liked to have a little bit more time to kind of,
to wrap it up.
Finish it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And sorry about that. Yeah, if we had like a certain announcement, once it went counting down, it seems like we couldn't stop it. But Ina, I'm really grateful for you sharing here. So that the work and the exercise you're able to share with us here, and the difficulty when the language it feels like it's hurting other, but then you feel like you're constricted with your own language. It's like, I cannot express that, you cannot express yourself. And in that you found deep compassion, yeah, for them, for their suffering. That's amazing. Isn't it like the language and identity also here in the Balkans also, it was so much intertwined, the language and identity. Yeah.
Yes, and just to send you a big hug, Ina. We're here with you. We're feeling with you. And Jessica's suggesting we could do a collective grounding before we close today, and that feels like a really, really lovely and useful suggestion.
Yeah, I I think that's a good idea, because I also noticed in the beginning the topic unexpectedly a little bit triggered me a bit. Just the day I'm having, maybe, or I don't know, but there was a lot coming up, and so I'm glad we, yeah, yeah, this, it's a big, heavy topic, I think, for all of us because we're kind of watching the news and going, what the fuck, you know? Yeah. So I think a good collective grounding will be very welcome here. And, you know.
Thanks. It is a big topic. Yeah. Anyone, before we move to that final part of the grounding, anyone else like to say, or would it be best now to move to the final bit? Let's then just for a moment, wherever you came with the exercise, wherever you are right now, whatever you're feeling, just stay with your body. So let's do a little bit of the grounding. Just make yourself comfortable and connect with your body, maybe by way of noticing your breathing and being mindful of your breathing, or just being aware of your posture. And that may mean that also you're not staying with your thoughts, but actually you are sort of spreading your awareness throughout your whole body in the way that best works for you. And whatever you are feeling in the moment, whatever quality you're in the state, just kind of welcome it here. Just acknowledge reality of your state. And like that compassion that Ina found in her exercise, kind of feel that you have compassion for yourself. Okay. And feelings and thoughts might arise again, but just stay with your awareness. Bring yourself down into your body. And breathe in. And breathe out. And take a couple of moments before we come back into the group for the closing circle.
I'd like to add something and invite something in. If you're beginning to feel anchored and more resourced, you could softly begin to open your eyes and feel the circle. And we could imagine that we're holding hands, as it were. taking a moment to feel each other and feel how we are felt by each other. And maybe your eyes fall on one person on the screen. And really just feel into and feel and receive the other. Knowing we're here for each other. And feel free to receive from the circle what you need to receive. You can breathe that in and let it soak in. And we can know that we are here even when this session ends. We are still here and the field is still here. Yeah. Thank you. Such a big topic. Whew. And I just shake it out. Yeah. Yeah, Milan, thank you. It's not easy. Thank you, everybody, for having the courage to go there. You know, even just the courage to show up and open your heart to this conversation and to share something that is delicate and emotional and very charged in so many ways. Yeah. I hope you all have a chance to do something for yourself that feels also grounding and heartwarming and centering and nourishing. But we have a few more minutes, so we could just see what we want to check out with and if we have another question or something we're still sitting with. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thank you, Milan. I appreciate the space, and yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to feel into what's clearly here in this world at the moment. So it's, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much for giving us a context for working through this very challenging time at so many levels and so many dimensions. It's hard. It's hard to stay with it and let oneself be broken open by it, just to stay human. It's so easy to switch off the news or not read and do something else, but to stay human is becoming increasingly difficult, challenging.
It feels like that's something we need to do together. Remind each other that we're human. It's relational. very relational.
Yeah.
Collective, and just I loved what Jessica shared at the end. It's like, yes, the field is still there. This call is going to end, but the connection, the subtle connection between us is there.
Mm. Mm. Thanks, Fran. I'd like also to add, and that doesn't mean that there's not space for the others, but just as Anya said, I found myself in a vulnerable spot while preparing for this, and I was wondering, where's this coming from? I didn't immediately connect that this is related to the topic, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm here at home with the topic, but I also am not, and I found myself in a vulnerable spot around it as well. So. And I remember during the beginning of the work in Croatia here, it was that I thought instead of getting more distance from each other, we need actually to get, the more polarized it is, if we can stay closer to each other.
Yeah.
Like hear what people are saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's also a I'm sure others can relate, but there's this, you tell yourself like, I should be really grateful that I'm here in a safe place, and it's a particular kind of stress and grief that is both, I find I'm compassionate towards, but also like, come on, like this is, the people out there, they are suffering and there's no reason to suffer. And it's a complicated feeling. It's not a complaint. It's just kind of complicated because you don't want to shut off, and you want to regulate how much news you watch. But there can be this kind of the voice in the back of your mind that's like, should I do more? Should I get more involved? Should I feel more? Should I? And then suddenly it can just hit me like I just start weeping because I have an image of Palestine, or even the other day I had an image of the Jews in the Second World War, and it was just like, and I let it happen, but it just shows me again like how much is held collectively in the individual as well, and how important it is to not minimize that without kind of without, you see, I can't find how, but without recognizing how lucky we are and how privileged we are in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the complexity of the privilege, and at the same time being exposed to the atrocities that are taking place. It's like,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, if any message of this session would be like, let's challenge that assumption of the war. Let's just challenge it, even if we don't have the power to go out there, but with our neighbors, with people around us. Let's just challenge that in every,
Yeah. Yeah, as Dan said, the rhetoric is all about the war, and people are maybe even talking about it is reinforcing the possibility of it. We're acknowledging what might just be the smaller but more scary possibility. But perhaps there's a larger possibility for a better outcome. Perhaps we just don't speak about it. But the war is getting so much attention, and it's seductive for some to switch on the news and be horrified, and then we energize it. Even by talking about what some politicians say, we energize it. Maybe we give it life in our own consciousness,
in our own beliefs. We give energy to that belief system.
And so what Dan said very early on really, really felt right. Why are we even feeding that rhetoric or listening to it or participating in it? do we contribute to it unconsciously?
Do we have Jessica in front? Is it okay? We're a little bit, yeah.
I think it's good to hear from the others who haven't spoken if they would like to come in. Yeah, and then we can close. Yeah, Ina. Yeah.
I want to tell that I'm also thinking about this other story, the story of peace and love, and how we keep alive this story in our heart, kind of, even if it's only dream, if it's only kind of like some fantasy about the world where there is no war and people can communicate and freely without this polarization. And I don't know if it's kind of like distancing or it's just running away from situation, but kind of every morning I'm doing my rituals where I focus on vibrations of love, compassion, healing and peace, and also forgiving and trust. And I just purely feel this energy of those 6 vibrations. And this so strong that actually I believe, and it exists without stories, you know, because our stories, our myths right now are feeding this polarization, are feeding the war. But there are the stories needed, which will feed this feeling of love and community and commonness, not differences. And I kind of like, as an artist, I think that it's truly a task for the artist, find this possibility to create this story about love.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say so. Why not? Yeah. Thanks for speaking so clearly about it, Tina.
Thank you.
Manjusha, is there anything you would like to say before we close?
I don't know. It's just so confusing, is what I told Nargis when we were doing the thing, and it's also very. I mean, I'm not able to understand it, actually. When we're talking about things that may not be very immediate for any one of you, and I don't want to sound patronizing, but like I was telling Nargis, it's very immediate for me because the killings that happened in Kashmir is still weighing on all of us here. I don't know if you all know the details about it. The people were called out and for which religion they belong to, and then they were shot dead. And like I was telling Nargis, it's because we are so connected now with the social media and the news and all the images and the sounds, it becomes immediate, and then we're all in that together. Before, I would have had to probably read it the next day in a black and white newspaper with half a, maybe, I don't know, 10 inches column and some pictures, or maybe not. But now it's not like that at all. You see, you experience, and everybody is in it. Especially those that we say are your collective, you know, the ones who are affected. So what I'm feeling right now, maybe somebody in Sri Lanka may not be feeling it. Because then there's this sense of, you know, who am I? So I'm part of this collective. And that's, of course, defined by the nation that I belong to. And then I feel threatened as a country. And then I feel threatened. So like I said, I'm too far away, actually. It's not going to hurt me yet. But I can feel And so I'm confused. And which is what I was telling Nargis. Why? Why? Why are you doing this? We are quite happy as a nation watching our Bollywood, participating in our cricket, eating, enjoying whatever. Indians are quite. And then suddenly you question us that, is it all right for you to exist if you're not this and this? And then, okay, now I'm going to shoot you dead. And I'm not only going to shoot you, I'm going to shoot you in the most goriest way possible. Someone who's just been a bride for a month and begging for her life and then begging to be shot dead because doesn't want to be alive after seeing the husband shot through the head in front of her. So these stories, where do they stop and how much do you say that it's all right? How much can you say that it's all right? But I'm so far away. So I think I was just probably, I think in this group, I'm just probably the one who's been the most restless and sort of very confused. Still very confused about everything and try not to think about this because it's not over. That's the whole thing. It's not over for us. We don't know when it's going to happen again. As a country, we've just been going through this. So I'm not, I don't know if this was a good idea, Jessica, that you asked me to speak.
I would like to make a suggestion, perhaps that we could close the session, but if we need something from each other, Dan, I'm just wondering whether we could have, if anybody feels like they need a little bit more grounding, a little bit more holding, then we could take the time for that after this session. Yeah, because it feels like we've touched into something that goes very, very deep. And we're navigating that together. And in some ways, it opens, it closes, and it's there for us all the time. Yeah, so I'm feeling my way into what is helpful now. Manjusha, would you like a little bit more grounding with one of us afterwards?
Asking me, it broke in between a little bit.
Yes, I was asking whether you would like a little grounding, if anybody else would like that, if anybody would like to stay on for another few minutes and we do another grounding exercise together, if anybody feels like that is really what they still need.
Yes, but I don't know if that's all right with others. And
for those who want to leave and need to leave, that is okay. I'm happy to stay on, and we can close with Milan, but we can stay on. I'm happy to stay on and spend a bit of time co-regulating together, sitting together, if that is what is wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would appreciate that. Yes.
Sure. Yeah, that's okay. No problem. Milan, I know we've gone over the 2 hours and we're kind of feels like there's a process in process.
I'm fine with it. I'm not my constraint, immediately that I have to go. I do need to go, but it's not that I immediately need to go. I also understand we are saying the field, around every topic, the field, what is out there is here. So talking about the war and what is out there is here, right between us. So that's it. And so on one hand, like we are saying, we do need regulation, and on the other hand, this is what we are feeling. Further from what Manjusha said, I want to say before I leave, I just wanted to say that I felt your connection here on Zoom, even on Zoom here, and I think you, Manjusha, you said something like far from the events or so we can sort of say whatever, protect ourselves. Well, I felt in what you spoke and what everyone else spoke, I felt close to. You know, the way people are speaking is a deep concern about what's going on. And I think that brings me, this is the first time I'm meeting you, that brings me really close to you. This is also funny. It's a bit kind of funny feeling around this. It's like first time seeing you and then feeling with what you're expressing and the diversity of views. And there's no right way. I think what I've learned, there's no right way. It's just what is, what we all are feeling in our hearts. So thank you for that. And thanks for staying a little longer. I also don't mind that. And wishing you all the best. And let's keep that dream alive. And let's not subscribe to that, like Dan said, that assumption that this needs to be the situation. Yeah. Yeah. All best to you. All best to you all.
Thank you, Milan.
Thank you. So we'll officially close, but and I'll pause the recording and we'll keep the room open for anybody who feels like they want to stay a little longer.